Hello and welcome back to the shop. These Morris Minors are both on M chassis. The Traveller's on an MO6 with pogo shocks, while at least the van gets oil shocks on its MO3 chassis. I love the way this thing looks, but it's an absolute handful to drive. It's so fast and the back just constantly wants to overtake the front. To drive either of these relies on my making a pilgrimage to a supermarket car park on a Sunday, and it's rare that I actually find myself wanting to spend my Sunday in a supermarket car park, so I tend to drive there, get them out, drive them around a bit with my wife and then put them away after 20 minutes. It's rare we even run the batteries flat, and I hardly ever drive them. I've also made a Morris Minor saloon which sits on this same MO3 chassis, and once again I rarely drive it. The only Morris Minor body shape left then for me to model is the pickup, and I've long planned to do a pickup. I remember telling Peter Smith from CW01 Creations that I was going to do a Morris Minor pickup years ago. Well, at last, that time has come. But to make myself more likely to drive it, I've decided to do it on an off-road chassis. Enter the MN models MN82. This is a Toyota LC79, notionally in 1/12 scale, but actually closer to 1/13 or 1/14, I think. As you can see, this one's brand new, and while I've no use for the cab, I do have an intended use for the rear bed. This is a four-wheel drive vehicle with four-link front suspension and, unusually, leaf spring rear, but it's aided with a pair of coilovers. These make the rear end really stiff. I suspect that the idea is that you leave them on if you're planning to haul loads with this thing, but if you want proper trail articulation, then you can just take them off and rely on the leaf springs alone. Let's get the body off this thing. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. I am absolutely rubbish at YouTuber style one-handed driving and filming, so I always get my wife to drive the car and I just film it. However, I'm going to try and show you my lipo storage solution. Here we are under a tree. This way, if any of them burst into flames, they don't burn my house down, and this inverted pot keeps the rain off them. It's been working for years. Mind you, none of them has ever burned. The only time I've ever had a lipo go thermonuclear on me, I was travelling in an open car, and I had the thing in the thigh pocket of my trousers. Suddenly my leg got very, very hot, and I reached down, seized the plug, which was hanging out of my pocket luckily, and pulled the battery out by the wires, threw it over the side of the car, and it burst into flames. Ever since then, the lipos have lived outside. So, that's good. But is that interior in the right place? Can a relatively modern Toyota interior be modified to look like that of an old Morris? This is a Morris Minor van, and it's the nearest in appearance to a Morris Minor pickup. I was very tempted to use the Traveller because then we'd get a Woody, and I even bought a Traveller body. I might do the Traveller as well for fun. With the Morris Minor body inverted, I'll offer up the chassis. Actually, let's just drop it in, shall we? Goodness. I don't think we could have got much luckier. I'm not even going to have to change the wheelbase. Well, it's Dremel time. This is the situation after the first very rough cut with the Dremel. The wheelbase of the MN82 is in fact a tiny bit longer than that of this Morris Minor body, but the difference is close to negligible. It certainly doesn't justify cutting up two bodies and gluing them together, which is what I expected to have to do. It isn't, however, going to be practicable to get the body to sit any lower than this. I had hoped to retain the small wheels. In fact, I was delighted that the MN came with such small wheels because it looks Morris Minor-like. But with the body sitting at this height, it's likely that I'll have to use larger wheels to fill up those arches a little more. As for the reason the body won't sit any lower, it's simply this. The chassis rails themselves sit here like that. So it's not practicable to make any change there. There was a bit of chassis poking out in front here, and as you can see I've had to cut that right off. When I did sit the body on top of the chassis, I was in fact delighted to see that the interior comes in exactly the right place. But I really don't like those headrests. They don't look very Morris Minor-ish to me. They've got to go. Yeah, that looks much better. Perhaps before I go much further, I should do some elementary research and actually see what Morris Minor pickups looked like. After cutting off the headrests, I made good the top of the seats. I also painted them brown and made myself a little driver figure. He's simply the upper half of a table football player. I don't plan to put too much effort into the driver figure, as this being a Toyota interior, I don't want to show it off very much. So it's all going to be quite dark in there, I think. I've also begun making some body mounts. This one goes amidships, and the idea is that a screw will go through the side of the body and into this block of wood. It'll go on something like that, and there'll be a similar one at the rear. I haven't yet decided what I'm going to be doing at the front. Got the body crudely mounted, and I just want to make sure that in the real world the steering and everything works. I've regretfully decided that this roof simply won't do. The problem is that the sides splay out. They're not at all vertical. So I've decided to use a piece from the roof of the van, cut to suit. This piece from the rear of the van will of course fit perfectly there. I'm looking to flatten this thing out, and I think the best way is to pretend it's a cylinder head and do this. I fitted those little tabs to help me align this thing when I glue it on. Before I do that, I need to cut out the rear window and deepen it. But before I do any of those things, I have to address another matter. There's going to be nowhere on this model, other than under the bonnet, to put the battery. So I have to make it opening. However, I think it would be easier to do that before I fit the back of the cab, because I can get my fingers in. Another matter is the shape of the opening. I'm going to have to make it narrower than on a real Morris Minor, because I need this real estate here to mount the front of the body. So while the Minor's bonnet opens like this, mine will open like that. I've hinged the hood and attached the back to the cab. This didn't fit well, and I'm afraid there's rather a lot of filler involved. I used organic CAD to knock up a template to give me the shape for the bed of the pickup. As I've been unfortunately forced to site the bed quite high within the pickup, it doesn't need much in the way of wheel arches. And I've added some corrugations on the floor of the bed, which are simply made from little wooden lollipop sticks. I have been wondering how I'm going to hold the hood shut. So I've glued an old wine cork inside it, and the hope is that I'll be able to fix a magnet to there and a piece of steel to this piece of wood. We've already seen this middle body mount. The front one, as you can see, is quite basic. It'll just take 2 screws, and this takes 4 screws, 2 on the ends and 2 holding the load bed down. In order to get the right size for this and for all the other linings of the bed, I've had to temporarily mount the body, but now I'm going to take it off again and spray it with grey primer. Here it is in grey primer, and that has actually got me thinking about what colour I'm going to paint this thing when it's finished. Actually, I have a funny idea. I remember seeing these in a sort of light bluish grey when I was a kid. It's the colour of the car at bottom left on this chart. I've just sprayed the body the colour from the chart. While that paint dries, I'm gluing the driver into position. The next question is headlamps. As you can see, this thing comes with the wiring and the LEDs for headlamps but no tail lights. So I'm going to make myself some headlight reflectors. In order to do that, I'll simply cut off the rounded end of these CO2 canisters which I use to run these things and drill an appropriately sized hole for the LED. I've had a new idea about how to make turn signal indicators and rear lights. These are paper fasteners. You push them through 3 or 4 pieces of paper and then bend the little legs back, and it struck me that I could stick them through the bodywork and bend them out, and that in fact is how I've made the fuel filler cap. The reason is that because this is going to go off-road, it's going to roll a lot and tumble down hillsides and things, so they need to be more firmly attached than just being glued on. I've started painting the front, as you can see, and I also plan to paint the wheels cream. The headlights are done. They're just the canister drilled to accept an LED and glazed with a piece of hard polycarbonate with some lines scratched onto it. Sadly, this wire is a little too short, so I'm going to have to cut that and extend it a little. I've been epoxying in the windows beneath this Leatherman. Is a Land Rover wheel nut. Between the two of them, they've been pushing this window into the right shape so it grips all the way round. I've done all the windows all the way round except this one. I've also fashioned some wooden door handles from the tips of cocktail sticks. How are we doing? We're not that far off actually. I need to extend those wires so that I can get the headlights installed. Once that's done, I'll need to paint the door handles and make it some sort of radiator grille. Well, I thought I was doing okay. Body mount holes countersunk, door handles painted. I made a good start on the grille. And then I realised I've done one end nice and rounded and the other end completely squared off. And that, my friends, is cyano. So it's going to be fun getting that off. In other news, here we have a hood closure magnet and a little thing to grasp so I can open the hood. We have a made up vehicle reg plate at the rear and the same number at the front. This is the first time I've put it together. As far as I can see, it's finished. Let's see what it can do.